Okay, everybody, welcome. This is Vincent St. Louis. What got you here today is not going to get you where you're going. So you've got to continue to grow and change and get better. And like I've always said, real estate, attracting other people, life in general is a group of skills, not talent. Talent is something you're born with, something that God blessed you with. Skills are something that you can learn, that you practice. You practice a skill set. You become better at that skill set. You practice and practice and practice. I've heard the thing that practice makes perfect, and that's not exactly true because you can practice the wrong thing over and over and over again, and you're still doing it incorrectly. So perfect practice makes perfect. So how do you know that you're on track? How do you know that what you're practicing is the right thing? Well, there's two ways for that. One is counseling with somebody else that's where you want to be, and the other is learning from other people that have gone where you want to go. Books, tapes, CDs, videos, just learning and growing and finding out, making sure that you're on track. So I want to share with you guys, I got a really good friend of mine, Jim and Margie Floor. They were multi-millionaires. And I learned a lot from Jim and Margie. They became really good friends of mine. I did a Bible study with them for probably 4 years in a row every Wednesday, them and another group of people as well. Actually, it was just Jim because it was a men's Bible study. But anyways, I learned a lot from Jim on communicating with people. And one of the things that I learned from him that I'm reflecting back on today, and I'll probably do more of this next week because I was going over some of my notes and one of our talks that we had a while ago about the art of asking questions, the art of communicating, and there's just too much to go through right now. So I'll probably touch back on this next week maybe, unless something more taxing comes up that we need to go over. But I think that the art of asking questions is very important, even whether you're doing open houses. I'm going to be doing open house on Saturday and Sunday in Antelope, and I did one last week. You're meeting people, talking to people, and this is a lost skill that myself especially. So when I'm talking to you guys, I'm talking in the mirror to myself. I'm sharing myself because this is a lost art that I have in past years neglected to revisit and to master the art of communication. And I say this all the time. It does not matter what business you're in, as long as you're in a people business like real estate. There's only a few, probably 3 to 4, maybe 5 skill sets that if you mastered these skill sets, it would greatly increase your income 10, 20, 30, 100-fold. And those skill sets, if you just took the time out of your day to practice one of those skill sets, maybe one every 3 months, and you just spent your time, by the end of the year, you will have grown and built your arsenal, your skill set, your toolbox to do business to the next level, and it would literally take you, without spending a ton of money on advertising and stuff, just honing the art, the skill sets that it takes to build your real estate business or whatever business you're rev share, selling more real estate. And one of those skill sets, of course, is communication with people. Communicating with people, the art of communicating with people. How do you get better at communicating with people? Well, you practice. You set a goal to go out there and say hello to people. Remember, I think it was last week I talked about the fact of, putting the golf tees in my pocket and just learning how to say hello. That's where I came from, is the fear of even saying hello to people. And then you get to the level of asking questions, and I felt miserable on that. And I'm going to share with you some of the pitfalls and some of the things that you can do on the art of asking questions and communicate with people. There's basically 3 necessary parts to the art of asking questions. One is the art of asking a question. Learn how to ask questions to people. Learn how to engage people. Learn how to get people to answer or to communicate with you, the best way to do that is to ask people questions about themselves. What do people want to talk about? They want to talk about them. Well, there's an art in asking the question, so you don't just come out and ask some strange question and now the person feels uncomfortable. But then again, you've got to also look into the fact that most of the time our fears of that stop us from doing it. That's my biggest challenge, is the fear of looking dumb, acting dumb, saying stupid stuff, being perceived as why are you asking me these questions? Most people don't think that. But your ability to get better at asking questions is going to better your chances that it's going to become natural to you and also be received as natural by the person that you're asking the questions. And so, I've got a friend of mine, really good friend of mine, and it's just amazing the way this person can communicate with people. I have literally walked into a restaurant with him. Me, my wife, and him and his wife were going out to dinner, and all of a sudden we're all sitting down at our table. We're getting ready to, the waitress, the hostess is sitting us down, and all of a sudden we look up and like, where's Mel? And we're like, I don't know, maybe he went to the bathroom. And all of a sudden he comes back about 10, 15 minutes later. I looked up, I remember this time I looked up and he's sitting at a table talking to this man and woman. And so, it's like, man, we've been in this restaurant for 2 seconds and Mel is already sitting at a table talking to two people. So it gets back to the table, and I'm like, Mel, was that, who was that? Was that somebody you know? No, I'd never met them before. I commented on her purse, and then before long, a couple questions. I sat down with them. We chatted. I got their name. I've got their phone number. I'm like, who does that? How does somebody go from walking in a restaurant to seeing somebody they've never met before in their life, and 30 seconds later, they're sitting at a table with them in a restaurant? Well, Mel does. Because it's natural to him. He does not think about what other people are going to think about him. He doesn't think about, Brent does this a lot. I watch Brent talk to people, and he does this a lot. He's just sincere communication. Well, this is not a natural thing for Vincent, and it may not be a natural thing for you. So what do? We have to go out there and purposefully set a goal that I'm going to get better at communicating. I'm going to set myself up to ask questions, to communicate, to practice the art of communication. So the first one is asking questions. We're going to go in a little bit more detail on these. The second one is listening. Oh, my gosh, I fail miserably at this. Most of the time when somebody's talking, my mind is wandering, or I'm busy thinking about what I'm going to say next. Even when I ask a person's name, I'm so worried that I'm going to mess up my name. I'm thinking about saying my name instead of listening to their names. The lips are moving, but I'm not hearing it. And so, maybe that's the first question you ask is somebody's name, but that's an art. That's a question. But listening to the answer intently with sincerity is going to open up opportunity for you to ask other questions to dictate the roadmap that this conversation is going to go down. If you don't listen to their question, or if you don't ask questions, listen to their answers, which is going to give you fuel for more questions that's going to allow you to sincerely move this conversation down a path. And you'll find as you practice and you hone these skills of communicating, I'm going to give you some homework to do in a minute. As you hone these skills, you'll realize that simply, naturally, you're able to engage in a conversation and direct this conversation where you want to go without the other person knowing what you're doing, and have them enjoying the process of you leading this conversation. So listening to the person. And third is sharing your thoughts and feelings honestly. This is going to open up more dialogue with you, with the other person. So think about those things. So first off is of course, part of communicating is asking a question. Hello, what's your name? Or what are you doing here? You meet somebody, an open house. You're hello, my name is Vincent. What's your name? You sincerely listening to their name. And one of the best ways to remember a person's name is to say it back to them and even spell it back to them. Oh, your name's Joe. Is that Joe, J-O-E? And this is really tough one for me because I don't spell well anyway. So maybe I will avoid that so I don't really look like an idiot. But most people don't really notice that. They just say, oh no, it's instead of J-E-O, it's J-O-E. It's like, oh, silly me. Yeah, but it's going to help you to remember that person's name instead of just watching their lips move and then thinking about what you're going to say next. It's very important to intently listen to the other person and think about what they're saying as they're saying it and not have what your agenda is of mind. When you ask somebody a question, what's the point of asking a question if all you're thinking about, and this is once again what a big challenge that Vincent has, is I'm thinking about how do I find out more information about this person because I want to share my agenda or I want to tell my story, or they start telling a story and before long I think about the conversation later. I did this at an open house last weekend and I realized that I did more talking than they did. The only way that happens is for me not asking enough questions and listening to the answer. I was so busy wanting to tell my story. The guy was in the construction, and I told a story. He said another comment, and then I told another story about myself. And so the third part is sharing your thoughts sincerely, but there's a limit to what you need to do, and part of that is listening to them, asking questions about their questions. John, tell me more about that. That's a great one. What do people want to do? They want to talk about themselves. It's amazing when I hear people say they have a conversation and you watch people and they're doing most of the talking. The other person is doing all the listening. And they'll walk away from that and say, oh, they're a great communication person. It's like, I didn't say anything. All I did was listen to you. And that's what people want to do. They want to talk about themselves. So your ability to ask questions to get them to talk about themselves is very important. So get in the habit of asking people's questions and have them elaborate on things that maybe have mutual interest that you can there communicate with. All you're looking for is something that's going to create mutual interest so you can create rapport with the other person. How do you create rapport? By looking for a way of finding common ground that you both can relate to, whether it's family. A lot of times, sometimes you just can't find anything, and then you become sincerely interested in what they do or what they're doing. The other night, Carrie and I were at Red Robin. We're out eating a burger, and the guy sat down next to us, and we're sitting in the bar because the restaurant part was full, and we started a conversation with this guy on what he was doing and what he was doing. He looked like he was a construction worker. He actually lived in Petaluma area, and he had some rentals out here. He's remodeling. So anyways, we found out all this stuff about him, and the purpose was I was practicing the skill set of communicating with this person. By the time we left, I knew all kinds of stuff, how many kids he had, what he was doing, how many rentals he had, what was he doing with them, how was it going, what does he do for a living, all kinds of stuff about what he does in his life. And when we were done, I got him talking so much I had to leave because I noticed that his sandwich that he ordered wasn't even being eaten and was starting to get cold, and if I kept on this conversation, he was going to end up with a cold burger. And so respectfully, I ended the conversation, and we were done eating anyways, and I cut it short when I left so we could finish his meal. But I was sincerely interested in his conversation and sincerely listened to his answers and then elaborated on some of the questions to make him feel more comfortable to share deeper, and which is the next part about listening to the conversation, is to then share a little bit about yourself or something that resonates with you and that person by their questions, and then I ask a question again, to either elaborate on that subject or move the subject, the conversation, a different path. And that's an art. It's a skill set. It's something that you practice doing. That's what. How are you going to get more information out of the person when they're at an open house? You know, a lot of times people focus on the fact, oh, well, they've got an agent, or they said they have an agent or whatever. A lot of people say that because they don't want to deal with you. I love what Barton Smith told me the other day. He said when he does an open house, he asks the people what they like about the house. And then he'll ask them questions about what they liked about it or disliked about the house. And he carries a little notepad in his pocket and a pen, and he'll take it out and just start taking notes on what the person is sharing. Just assume the sell, assume the close, assume the information. And then he asked them, well, if I could find something like this for you that fit these criteria, would you want me to send you some information on it? And then he just asked them, he doesn't even look up at it. He says, what's the best number for you? And he just waits for an answer. What's your best email? And he waits for an answer. And he doesn't look up at them or keep talking. I've realized that when people are filling out the form, like if you have a sign-in form, if you're talking, they're not writing. It's like no different than filling out any form that you have, signing loan docs or whatever. If you're talking, they're not writing. I've seen so many people in other businesses that's new. We get to a point where on a three-way meeting or whatever, we get to a point where the person's going to fill out an application or join something or do something, and the new person starts talking because they're uncomfortable with silence. And the other person's writing their information down on a piece of paper, filling out an application or whatever, and the new person starts talking, and what happens is that person stops writing, and because they can't write and listen, especially the guys. And women, they can do that stuff. But so the art of listening is the art of shutting up your mind as well as your mouth and listening to the person. Let me see here really quick. We're running out of time. Okay, here, I like this one here. Okay, well, I talked about that. The art of communicating is not a science. It's an art. Nope, that's not it right here. So a book that I want to encourage everybody to read. I've read this book multiple times, and in fact, it's on my top of my list right now as soon as I'm finished with Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins' book. Well, almost through with that one. Then I'm going to go back to How to Win Friends and Influence People. When I first heard of this, I thought it was a book about how to influence people, how to communicate with people, how to force people to think your way of thinking, and that's not what influencing is. It's part of it is directing the conversation for a mutual benefit. But in that book, he said he gives 6 rules for developing rapport with people. 6 rules to developing rapport with people. Number 1 is become genuinely interested in that person. That's a hard thing to become. If I'm talking to somebody about quilting or about snow skiing, I'm not into that. I'm not into quilting. I'm not into certain things. Well, it's your ability to ask questions about it, to find common things that have interest, and ask them for more information. Can you elaborate on that? Tell me more about that. Hey, John, you mentioned this. Tell me about that. What was your feelings or thoughts about it, or how did you feel about it, or whatever. Next is the second one is to smile. This is a tough one for some people. Smile when you're communicating with people. It's warm. People want to feel warm when they're communicating with you. I know some people, they just got the scowl look on their face. They're so serious. And I'm going to encourage you to practice the art of smiling. I used to have, I don't need it anymore, but I used to have a mirror in front of me when I'm doing my calls. And it said on it, smile. And I had to look in the mirror and smile before I was on a phone call. Even smiling on a phone call gives you energy that the other person can feel. And so smiling is very important, especially when you're face-to-face with people, when you're communicating with people. I want to throw something else in there that's very important, and that's a whole different topic. But when you're smiling, make sure that you don't have food in your teeth. Make sure that your hygiene is well. Carry breath mints with you all the time. I'm not a fan of chewing gum. Be very careful chewing gum. It can leave gum between your teeth, little white spots. You don't even know it's there. There's nothing worse than communicating with somebody, having a conversation with somebody, and all you're focused on is the thing in their teeth, or the nose hairs poking out of their nose, or their ears. Look, you gotta take care of yourself. You gotta look presentable in the communication part. It's a huge part. That's a whole different topic, about communicating, is on your appearance and making sure that before you go into the open house, before you go into a mixer, a chamber event, a P-car event, a board of realtors event, out looking at homes, out meeting people, that you look in the mirror and take personal account on you and how you look. And how many times have you talked to somebody and all you can think about is the bush hanging out of their nose, or the stuff in their teeth, or they're chomping gum the whole time. You're just distracting, and you want to be able to focus, and you don't want to be that distraction. So that's a little side note there. Number 3 is remember their name. I talked a little bit about this. Horrible for me. I'm always thinking about something else. We say that we're horrible on remembering names, and the only reason why is because we don't listen to the name. We're not astutely trying to pay attention to the name. And the best way to do that is, while you're shaking the person's hand, repeat their name back to them, and then do your best to use it in the sentences or the questions or the conversation at least the first couple of times you communicate. Joe, it's great to meet you. Joe, how long have you been a real estate agent? Joe, who are you with? Joe. And what you're doing is you're putting it back into your brain so you can remember the person's name. So remembering their name. It's a habit to create to remember the person's name. Number 4 is a good listener. We've covered that many a times. Number 5 is talk about their interests. Continue to talk about them. Number 6 is sincerely make them feel important. And so read that book. What was it again? It was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Another one is Confidence and Power in Dealing with People. I think that's Shad Helmstetter. Great book on communicating. So this is just a little bit on the art and the skill of communicating with people, the art of asking questions. There's a whole, we could go on for days on the skill set, and maybe that's a good topic that we'll continue to reach on. And I'll write out a list of I'm not very into Excel spreadsheets and stuff, but an outline of things that we can go down these bunny trails and maybe get some insight from other people, some other successful people on our team, on the art of asking questions, the art of listening, the art of communicating. So I'm going to encourage everybody, one is to pick up a book on communicating, whether it's How to Win Friends and Influence People, the Confidence and Power in Dealing with People, whatever, and then practice this weekend with whatever you're doing. Practice without no agenda. Practice the art of asking questions. See how long you can keep a conversation going and keep somebody talking about themselves and direct that question in different areas of their life. And when you feel you're in a subject that may be a little uncomfortable, the best way to settle that uncomfort is to share something a little sincerely about yourself that may relate to that person, may open up to them, that will cause them to feel comfortable sharing their feelings about something that you have a mutual feeling or experience with. It's really a fun way to build your confidence and power in dealing with people, build your skill set of communicating, asking people. Look in the mirror, take stock of yourself, listen to people sincerely, remember their name, and ask them questions about themselves, listening to what they have to say, to their answers, and you will become a better real estate agent. You will get better, more referrals, because people feel genuinely listened to. They're going to feel more comfortable around you. They're going to feel like you sincerely care about them, and you will become a better real estate agent, a better person, and, of course, you will also have like-minded conversations with people that are possibly a prospect to move to EXP with you and with EXP. So I hope this helps everybody. I am a 9:28. I finished on time. I'm excited. Hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope somebody got some information, some good pointers on this. I appreciate the people that do text me afterwards and let me know what you got out of it. It really helps to encourage me that you're getting good stuff, and I keep feeding into you. So once again, appreciate everybody. God bless you all. Have a blessed weekend, and I appreciate each and every one of you.